Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first edition of the Diabetes Care Summit. I'm Dr. Barbara Akimbua, and I'm your health buddy. This summit is for you if you've been diabetic for a while and you've been struggling with keeping your blood sugar controlled, either because you have problems knowing what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, what else you need to do to keep healthy, or you do know these things, but it's difficult to be motivated. It's also for you if you have an elderly parent who is diabetic that you care for, and you find juggling medications, clinic visits, meals, and then illnesses in between overwhelming. Or you're a beautiful married woman and all you would love to have is a normal pregnancy and delivery. And instead, you keep having miscarriages and stillbirths as a result of complications of diabetes. Or it could be your husband. He is the one who's diabetic. And during sex, you have problems. It's either most of the time he can't get it up, or he has other problems while you're having action. It's also for you if you're a health enthusiast and you believe that prevention is cheaper and better than cure. And so you'd like to learn anything you need to know to stay healthy. During this summit, you listen to loads of interviews by different specialists, including myself. Some of the interviews are short and some are not so short. But I'd encourage you to watch each video till the end because there's loads of important health information and you're getting it all for free. So, once again, welcome to the Diabetes Care Summit. And don't forget, I'm Dr. Barbara Akimbua and I'm your health buddy. See you on the healthy side. Today, we're going to be talking about something interesting, food and diabetes. How interesting is that? And as usual, I'll be talking with someone who is very knowledgeable in that. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself. So he'll say who he is and what he does, and then we'll take it from there.
So hello, everyone. My name is Alistair. I'm a diabetes specialist dietitian. I have a huge passion for health promotion, especially health promotion to our communities in Africa. It's my pleasure today that I get to speak with an esteemed colleague, Dr. Barbara today. So I'm really looking forward to addressing you all today.
Good. So we're talking about food. Why do we need to eat? Why is food necessary at all?
So we have to.
Why can't we do without it? Why do we need
to? Indeed. So we have to think of food on two planes, so there is that, psychological element, which feeds into, our culture of eating. So eating is not just our fuel, but, it forms a part of, our culture, our societal norms, so that's one side of things. And obviously the other side of it is, in order to receive our complete nutritional needs. So being able to receive all of those basic components for what we need to grow, to thrive, to have the energy that we need, to go out there and to work, to build muscle, so nutrition is on one side, for your fuel, to give you everything that you need to be healthy. And then on the other side, it's there as part of, our society and that's our culture, to bring us together, to boost our psychological health and boost our and reinforce our sort of cultural security as well. Yeah.
Good, great. So everything you've said is good. It's nice. Food is supposed to be enjoyed. It's supposed to nourish us. It's supposed to be something we're happy to we're supposed to be happy that we're eating or that we have food to eat.
Yes.
So where does illness and food, where does that relationship come from? What causes the problems?
So the issues come when our understanding of what we're supposed to take in nutritionally is imbalanced or impaired. So our body requires a certain quota of the foods that we eat. So the carbohydrates that we eat, which we need for energy, the proteins that we eat that we need for repairing our muscles and building other sorts of cells in our body, and even fats that we need for regulating our hormones. When we consume more than our body requires in those certain areas, or less, or even less than our body requires, then you can get issues arise. So a very common example is actually when you consume more calories than you need from with the carbohydrates, fats, and protein, you can actually gain a lot of excess weight. And when you get to a certain age, so over the age of 25, 26, actually gaining a lot of excess weight has no metabolic benefit to you. And because of that, some things can arise, like extra resistance to your body's insulin, which can go on to lead to type 2 diabetes, excess fat deposits, which can sit in your arteries and lead to heart disease and stroke and coronary artery disease. And it goes on and on and on. So too much of a good thing, can be negative in that respect.
So is it too much sugar or too much carbohydrate or too much food that causes diabetes? Because I hear sometimes when you tell a patient they have diabetes and they say, I knew it. I knew I was drinking too many soft drinks. Or I've told her, I keep telling her not to take sugar and she likes taking sugar. She takes too much sugar. So what is it? Is it sugar? Is it carbohydrate? Or is it food in general?
Dr. Barbara, you've mentioned something so key, because we get this a lot with our patients, don't we? Where people will come in and they will believe that having loads of extra sugar is what's caused the diabetes. And actually, what has caused, especially type 2 diabetes, is the actual cause is insulin resistance. Having a lot of sugar can exacerbate insulin resistance, and it does that by making you gain a lot of excess weight, which makes the insulin resistance worse. So the food itself won't directly cause it. So if I ate 50 donuts now, I wouldn't have type 2 diabetes tomorrow. But if I was consistently eating all of these extra donuts and puff and extra yam, so all these carbohydrate-based foods, so to answer your question, yes, if I'm having an excess amount of carbohydrates, then I'm likely to gain excess weight, or I'm actually likely to gain more insulin resistance, which will lead to diabetes and make things worse. And if you have diabetes, then having that extra carbohydrate, which is going to break down into glucose in your blood, is going to make your blood sugar control worse and make it much harder to control in the long term.
Okay, so some people would say, I'm not fat, I'm slim, and I don't eat a lot, but I'm diabetic. So what happened? How did I, why me? Is it the village people?
It's a good one. Did someone put a curse on my life?
Yes.
Did I go wrong somewhere? Is this bad karma even? And the honest answer is that when it comes to developing diabetes, what's going on is, I said there's this insulin resistance. What even causes this insulin resistance to begin with? And one of those things is genetics. So as you mentioned, there'll be some people who are even underweight who will go on to develop diabetes, and you look at them and they won't fit the typical profile. And what we would say is that actually, genetically, just coming from Africa, within your genes, you have those genetics that predispose you to insulin resistance, just being African. So you're born with that baseline genetic predisposition for that later on in life. It may not happen straight away, but it'll be later on in life. And if you've got someone in your family who has it, then once again, if especially if it's a close relative like a father, a mother, an uncle, first uncle or first auntie, then that risk is there. It's lying always.
Okay, so is there a particular food or herb that people can take to treat diabetes? Because people will say take bitter leaf, it's bitter. So it will cure it, or take mix. Someone told me once that she was told to use the leaves of the pawpaw tree. Somebody else said she was told to use unripe plantain and to allow it to ferment for 3 days and then drink that, and then she will be cured. So is there is there a herb or a particular food that can cure diabetes? Is there a magic food?
And the short answer is no. There is no magic cure for diabetes yet. No, nothing at the moment. Nothing at the moment. And unfortunately, maybe one day there will be. I know that food scientists and genetic scientists around the world are doing their research to see if they can help to dial back the clock on diabetes and prevent it. But for now, there is no magic cure. So once you've been diagnosed with diabetes, take it seriously. There is no magic special leaf or bitter remedy that is going to remove it from you, because we know that what has caused it is this growing resistance to your own body's insulin over time. And that there is medical treatment for that. And in fact, even after diagnosis, you can bring diabetes into remission within the first 2 years. And there is heavy research on that. In fact, 9 out of 10 people in the direct trial were able to achieve remission of diabetes within certain contexts. So we'll explore that further.
Okay, so since there is no food or herb that cures it, is there a best diet for diabetes? Because we've discussed we're from varied backgrounds, varied cultures, we eat different things. Our body weights are different, our genes are different. Is there a best diet for everybody who has type 2 diabetes?
So do you know what? Yes, actually, the short answer is yes.
Okay.
There is. And the best diet to follow if you have diabetes is actually a low carbohydrate diet, essentially. So it doesn't mean no carbohydrates, because I've known people as well to completely remove all carbohydrates from their diet and try all sorts of other things. And I heavily implore people just to stick with a lower carbohydrate diet. So what that means is at each meal, you're sort of aiming for about a fist's amount of carbohydrate on your plate, and you're bulking out your plates with as much vegetables as possible, and then having small amounts of meat or fish, and you're trying to limit red meat from your diet. So things like beef, like lamb, mutton, or those sorts of goats. You're trying to limit those sorts of things, and what you're trying to introduce more is a bit more chicken, and especially a lot more fish. So if you live by the coast and you have access to the fish, even better. Getting more fish in your diet, and just and making sure that with any foods that you have, you're conscious of how much fat has been added to the food. And what we mean by fat is your oils, your spreads, things like that. Just being conscious of that, because having a very, very, very oily dish means that there's actually a lot of extra calories that you weren't quite aware of. So we have people who come and speak to us, I'm sure you've seen it as well, Dr. Barbara, who will say, "Oh, I'm not eating much." And then you'll look at the food that they're having, and they're right. In terms of volume, it's not much, But in terms of the constituents of that food and the amount of oils that's been used, or the amount of fat that's been used to make the food, it's made that very small amount of food you've had very, very, very calorie dense, which has meant that your body is not getting the opportunity to, to deal with a lower calorie intake, which can help you to lose weight and reduce the insulin resistance. So that's me speaking about diet in a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's really good. So what I found that because we're different and we eat like what you were saying about I don't eat much, I eat a little. A little is relative.
It is.
But little for you might be a whole lot for me. So, so
Yes.
what I've found helpful with my patients is I tell them, half what you eat. Start by having what you eat.
Oh, yes.
So if you eat 4 slices of yam, take 2. If you serve yourself with 10 spoons of rice, cut it down to 5.
Indeed.
So instead of eating this, whatever size of eba or pounded yam or semovita you eat, when it's brought to you, cut half and send it back and eat only half. And then start with that. And then if you need to cut down further, then still cut it to half.
Put that half into half.
Yes.
That is absolutely wonderful. The reason I say that is because a lot of people come to us as doctors and dietitians for that kind of advice. And, people don't need complex, sort of medical jargon. They need practical steps that they can take today. So the second they leave the clinic room, what can I take? So, something as simple as, whatever you're having, it's brought you to this point. And especially if you're overweight, just start by cutting it in half. Yeah.
Because it's easier than saying, take 2 cups of rice.
Oh, yeah.
Or eat a fistful of rice, because then how do I measure a fistful of rice?
Yes.
And a lot of the times we don't, in Africa, we cook without measuring. We cook by experience.
By eyes.
Yes,
by
eyes.
Yeah.
But you must fetch the food with something to eat it. Hi, have you heard of Soyo, the new diabetes care app? Studies show that the best medicine to take for diabetes is to get education about it. Because if you understand how it affects your body, you'll know better what you need to do to fight it. It will also help you to take care of someone else with diabetes. With the app, you don't just get education, you also get to make your management plan either for yourself or the person you're taking care of. There are also lots of other features like meal plans, medication, and other reminders to keep you on track. And if you fall off, don't worry, just get back on. This is how families can live healthy and happy with diabetes. Don't be left behind. Download the app at soyo.web.app to care for yourself or someone else with diabetes. Is healthy food expensive? A lot of people will say diabetes is a big man's disease, it's for big people. I can't cope with it. I'm not even happy with the food I'm eating or with the quantity I'm getting. And then you're telling me I have diabetes. It's for big people, it's not for me. So is healthy food expensive?
And the short answer once again is no. Like healthy eating can, as long as you know what elements you're adding, it can be very, very, very cost effective. So you find that you actually don't have to make many changes at all. So if you're accessing things like vegetables from the market and things like that as well, one of the greatest things about being in Africa is the fact that when you get to the market, you can always haggle your price. Whereas if you're going to so in Ghana, you have places like ShopRite, where obviously it's established.
Nigeria as well.
And you've got ShopRite in Nigeria as well. So these are established places. You're not going to go to the till and then you're going to ask them to bargain and bring the price. You can't beat the price down there.
No, you can't.
But even with that, you still have access to good quality vegetables, good quality beans, good quality pulses. Apologies about the ambulances. you still have access to a lot of good quality veg, and it's all about trying to build up that diet from, with those vegetables as well. And then, even with the things that you do like, the rices, the eba, the gari, if you're having, sort of fufu as well, once again, if you're halving your portion sizes as well, are you not saving money?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're saving money. So it's a brilliant cost saving measure, Yeah.
So it's just to go with what is readily available in your environment. Nothing
Yes.
fancy, nothing exotic.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all. Start with
Anything,
what you have.
anything in season.
Yes, that's it. That's
Okay.
it.
Okay.
Yes.
So a lot of, or I get a lot of, can I eat fruits?
Mm,
Fruits are sweet.
yeah.
So should I eat fruits?
Mm.
Yeah. So what do you say to that?
What do I say about fruit? Well, I'm here to debunk the official myth and tell everyone that fruit is your friend. Fruit is your
Good.
friend. But in
Good.
diabetes, you must be very, very, very cautious about fruit. So you're aiming for one portion of fruit between meals. Just because when you've had your meal and there's been carbohydrates in the meal, you need to give your body a chance to process and work that carbohydrate through. Then an hour, 2 hours later, you have a piece of fruit. And so just one portion. One portion is basically whatever fits in the ball of your hand. So if that's, I would say that's about a quarter of a mango, maybe. I would say that's like one apple, one orange,
One banana.
yeah, one banana. So not one of those mutant bananas that's the whole size of your forearm, but just enough to fit in your hand. So one portion of fruit between meals, maximum 3 portions a day. You have to be thinking about, because with the fruit, as you know, it does contain natural fruit
Sugar.
sugars called
Yeah.
fructose, and fructose, yes, it gets broken down into glucose, and it will cause your blood sugars to rise if you're having it in excess. So 3 portions a day between meals. It's best to not think of fruit juice as your portion of fruit in the day, and not think of smoothies as your portion of fruit in the day either. Because if you think about a smoothie, I'm thinking about a smoothie that I might like to make. Maybe 3 or 4 portions of fruit are going in there. And then maybe I might add, some water, or might add some milk on top of that. So you're getting a lot of carbohydrate. And because you're blending it, you're breaking down all the fiber. So you're not even giving that fruit a chance to take its time to get into your bloodstream. You drink it, it's going straight. Yeah. So Dr. Barbara will tell you that when you have patients who are taking insulin with type 1 diabetes or in type 2 diabetes, if they've had a blood sugar that's gone below the reference range, so they've gone into hypoglycemia, in order to treat their hypoglycemia, the best treatment is actually orange juice. So orange juice, you get someone to drink it within 5 minutes, that orange juice has already got into their bloodstream. In 15 minutes, it's corrected their blood sugar from being below range to actually being within range. So just imagine your blood sugar already being within range, already being high, and then drinking orange juice on top of that. What do you think is going to happen? So I always warn people, we don't really tell people to avoid anything in diabetes, but fruit juice, yes, just for your benefit. It's not useful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot to talk about with regards to food. Some people will say, I don't eat this, I don't eat that. I'm doing organic, I'm doing Cambridge, I'm doing there was one that had acid-based something. I don't remember the name now.
Oh, you get like the alkaline diet and all
Yes,
these sorts of
yes.
things. Yeah.
So what you're saying is all we need is a lower carbohydrate diet. All that stuff,
Yes.
at the end of the day, what you should take is cut down your carbohydrate.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Go on to a lower carbohydrate diet. Yeah. From where you are.
stop stop all refined sugars rather.
Yes. 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 And start getting more and more fiber. We're so blessed because in Africa, we actually have a very, very, very high fiber diet.
Yes.
Naturally high in fiber. So is leaning on the strengths of our diet as Africans, I think is very, very powerful, because you have a lot of beans, a lot of pulses, a lot of sort of fibrous vegetables that get in there as well, like
Okay.
spinach and all sorts. So taking advantage. Mm.
So some people will say, I want to go organic. I keep hearing organic this, organic that, organic that.
Mm.
It, and organic is usually more expensive.
It is, it is,
Yeah,
it is.
so is it of any benefit?
It's in fact, it's very convenient that it's more expensive, isn't it? It's very convenient, and it's all, I personally believe that it's all in an effort to distract you, from what's important. So Dr. Barbara, we were saying something that was so key earlier. Start with what you have. Whatever is around you. If you can increase veg with the vegetables you have around you, use it. When it comes to organic produce and things like that, you're looking at foods that have been very, very sustainably and resourcibly farmed, meaning that farming practices are enabling those farmers to be paid better. They're not using as many pesticides, or they're not there isn't any sort of big big companies in playing with the foods or mass producing them in particular ways. So before all of that stuff comes into play, the first thing you have to ask yourself is does my diet contain those necessary elements first? Does my diet contain those things? And then after time goes on, then you can reevaluate your diet and just say, well, maybe now I'm in a position where I can maybe eat some more organic produce, because maybe I want to help out those farmers, or maybe I'm not keen on having some pesticides on some of my veg and things like that. But if you don't have any veg in your diet to begin with, you need to start from somewhere, and it's actually better that you're getting the veg in your diet than you're not, because you're waiting until you can purchase organic or organic produce. Yeah.
Great. So I think the same thing applies with protein, animal protein, because fish is more expensive here.
Yes.
In Africa. And I think the cheapest animal protein here is beef. So there's beef, there's goats, there's poultry, there's mutton, and then there's the processed meats.
Yes, of course.
Yes, so even if white meat, chicken is better, if it's more expensive and you can't afford it, you stick with what you have.
Yes.
But moderation is key. You don't go overboard.
Yes, no, definitely. So, one of the, I was speaking to my mother-in-law about this, actually, about, some of the, alternative protein sources in Nigeria. And, she was telling me about the wonders of millet. So I was speaking to her about, sort of other pulses, like, like beans in general, like the black-eyed beans, which are a very, very good protein source, because long term, what you don't want to be doing is you don't want to be sort of having like red meat every day, 7 days a week, every meal. You want to try and release a bit of that burden from yourself by actually maybe having, even if it was one plant-based meal, within your week.
Protein.
Yes, it's better. It's better than the alternative, which is just having the red meats, which we know, the evidence has shown us that long term it's increasing risks of cancer, stroke, heart disease, diabetes, and other inflammatory diseases. So plant-based protein, millet, black-eyed beans are also very, very, very good. What about in Nigeria? Is there much access to sort of things like chickpea or lentil, other things like that?
No, not lentils. So there are peas.
Yeah,
Green peas.
peas. Yeah.
There are other kinds of beans, not the black-eyed beans. So there's some brown beans.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I've seen those brown beans as well.
Yes, there's brown beans. There's bambara nuts.
Yes.
Yeah. So those two are, so there's some variety.
Yes.
Yeah, and then there are, of course, there's soya beans.
Okay, and soya is actually one of the best plant proteins, just because it has a very, very, very good amino acid profile, meaning that it's actually got an amino acid profile that's quite similar to the amino acid profile you get in meats. So it's a really, really, really good way of just getting good quality protein. And soya actually lowers cholesterol.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So can you imagine? So the actual what they said in the research is that you need about I think you need about 15 grams of soya in your diet a day in order to bring your cholesterol down by about up to 15%, within a 3-month period. So the evidence is there. The evidence is there.
Okay.
Yeah. And then also even things like oats, like porridge oats and things like that for breakfast. Once again, you've got some pretty good protein in oats too, and it can also help to lower cholesterol. But because oats is a carbohydrate, you want to just make sure that you're not,
Not
because I've said this,
yes.
now you're going to eat 50 grams of oats every meal. No. If it's there for breakfast, you're having a small amount, brilliant, brilliant.
Okay.
Mhm.
So processed foods
Mm, like corned beef.
like
Uh,
corned beef,
mhm.
like bacon, like sausage.
Yes. Yeah.
Shawarma is everywhere though,
Yes.
and there are
Yes.
sausages in it. So when you go, they ask you with sausage, without sausage, with cheese, without cheese.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
eating bacon, sausage, stuff like that for
Yes.
breakfast.
Yes.
Cornflakes, things like that.
Mm,
So how do these affect diabetes? Are they healthy? Are they not healthy? Should
mm.
they be restricted? Should you reduce? Because when you say don't take it at all,
Mm, mm.
a lot of the time you're looking for trouble.
Oh, yes. It
So,
it causes a lot of trouble. Causes a lot of trouble. The honest truth is, if it's in your diet, you have to evaluate how much of it you're having first and foremost. Are you having corned beef every day? If so, we know that so corned beef and those processed meats aren't particularly healthy. Or let me stop being so cute about it. They are not healthy. They don't promote health in any way. Um, they're essentially just there. So they're a type
so
of protein.
it's the social aspect of food that they
Yes,
satisfy.
indeed. They
When they are
that's what they
trying-
satisfy.
okay.
Yeah. And even things like bacon, it's preserved with it's a very sort of salty meat, preserved with a lot of salt. In diabetes, how those things interact is that when you have all of these very salty processed meats, what's going to happen is they're going to encourage your body to retain a lot more water,
Yeah.
and in retaining that water, it's going to really drive your
Blood
blood pressure up, or make it hard for your blood pressure to come back down.
pressure.
So if you already have a high blood pressure, it's going to make it 10 times harder to really bring it under control. Even if you're on medication, it can really, really cause a lot of problems. And then if you think about your blood vessel under all of this pressure already, when you have a high blood sugar too, what's happening is you're getting more and more cuts to the vessel. And when those cuts happen on the inside of your vessel, then you can get things start to leak out of the vessel, like cholesterol and other fats and other plaques, which can eventually block up that artery, leading to
Yeah.
stroke, heart attack. And next thing you know, someone, at the age of 50, at the age of 55, who's been going through this particular process for maybe 5, 10 years, they pass away suddenly. And then the big thing you hear, back home is, oh, what a shock, that this person is gone. And it can happen to even people who are relatively healthy. So people who
Yeah.
are getting physical activity and things like that. So limiting those processed meats, definitely, if it's in your diet once or twice a week, it's not a big deal. If it's part of your everyday, it will definitely be having an impact. Oh yeah, it'll have an impact. So I will never demonize like corned beef or bacon or sausages. But what I will say is the benefit is very limited. And the only benefit that you're really getting is just the fact that it's just fulfilling that social side of being able to, or that pleasure side of being able to enjoy food. But it's very, very high in saturated fat as well. So it's going to promote cholesterol, as well as the blood pressure. So it's not beneficial. It's not that beneficial if I'm
So
if I'm
limit as much as possible.
limit as much as possible. Yeah.
So cooking methods,
Mm,
boiling, frying, grilling,
mm.
do they have an effect on blood sugar levels? Do they have an effect on diabetes?
Oh,
Because
that's true.
we don't eat, all of our food has to be processed. Not all of it. Okay, so some of our food we can eat raw.
Yes, yes.
And we have to process some of it to some extent.
Yeah, yeah.
So does this have an effect on diabetes? Does it have an effect on blood sugar? You've already talked about smoothies and blending.
Mm. So yes, so uh, let's take meat for instance. If you have to grill meat, you are less likely to add extra oil to it in order to satisfy that. You may just baste a little bit over the top and just grill it as it is, meaning that as it's grilling, the fat is coming off it and is dripping down into the fire. So you're getting a little bit less fat from that particular meat. Whereas if you had fried it, then there is obviously meat in the pan, and then you're adding the meat to it, and then that's going to be it's going to be adding
Oil,
extra
you mean?
calories. Yeah,
Oil.
oil. So I guess with frying as well, shallow frying adds quite a lot of extra calories to a particular food. So I've jumped from food to food, but I'll use eggs as an example. Eggs are a very, very, very good example of this. So when you've boiled an egg, that egg, you've just got 80 calories, within that particular egg. The second you've shallow fried that egg, in any oil, canola, vegetable, I've even seen some people boil make fried eggs with palm oil before, So, if you've done it that way, you could be adding an extra 100 to even 200 calories, just to that one egg that you've just had. So you've almost doubled the amount of calories in it. So that's when people will come to you and tell you that actually I'm not eating a large volume of foods, but yet here I am with this high blood pressure or this high cholesterol or with diabetes control that's out of control. So in terms of boiling, frying, and grilling, you want to be having more maybe boiled and grilled foods in your
And fried.
diet than fried. And then lastly, with frying, if you have a big pot that you're frying within and you're using a healthier oil like rapeseed oil or vegetable oil, if you reuse that oil, so you've deep fried, you've allowed it to cool, and then you reheat and use it again, and you allow it to cool, then you reheat and use it again, that oil actually changes its chemical structure. So it stops being a healthy unsaturated fat that's not going to really touch your cholesterol, to be fair, at that sort of level, to becoming a trans fatty acid. And with trans fats, they are very, 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 very dangerous. In fact, they are so dangerous in the UK, they had to ban them. So the UK government does not allow trans fats on the market, just because they carry carcinogenic risk, and they also actively increase cholesterol worse than saturated fats in animal meats do. So reusing oil can actually have a very negative effect on your insulin resistance and a very negative effect on your cholesterol levels, which is something that we struggle with in the African
Yeah, yeah,
community,
yeah.
both diaspora and at home and at home. And by just having an idea of the things that could be influencing that picture, then we can start pulling some things away that can benefit overall health.
Great, interesting. So, healthy oils.
Mm.
In Africa, we don't really have rapeseed, canola, and all those. Those are the things you find in the ShopRites, and not
Yes,
everybody goes there.
yes,
So
yes.
what's commonly available? Vegetable oil,
Mhm.
groundnut oil, which a lot of it is locally made.
Yes, yes.
Soya bean oil,
Mhm.
palm oil.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. So are they healthy? Are they not healthy? You've already explained when you reuse it, it makes it less, in fact, it can make it dangerous. Less healthy
Mhm.
is,
Yes, yeah,
yeah.
indeed.
So those are the oils that are commonly available. In some places, you have shea butter.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, I know they eat shea. So
mm.
are those oils healthy? Are they not healthy? Because there's this debate about groundnut oil, soya bean oil.
Yes, and
What?
palm nut and all the and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So with groundnut oil, soy, so any plant-based oil is fairly healthy. Um, you know, in fact, even coconut oil and red palm oil, they are also actually very, very, very healthy. The only thing is, they're a little bit of an exception to the rule. Coconut oil and groundnut and red palm oil, because they are actually saturated fats. That's the only thing. So with the others, they are unsaturated, so it means that they're not going to have too much of an impact on your cholesterol and things like that. But coconut oil and red palm oil can. So you have to be very, very, very careful with how much you're gonna use to make certain things, because I'm sure you've noticed with coconut. If you've ever cooked a jollof rice with coconut oil before, no, I know someone who did. I know someone who did,
Okay.
and what happened was, they left the jollof rice to cool. They put it in the fridge, and then when you looked at the jollof rice, it was there. It was
Yeah,
encased
yeah,
in
yeah,
a
yeah,
wax,
yeah, yeah.
and what I ask people is, what do you think is happening on the inside of your body with such an oil? Do you think it's just gonna continue flowing around the vessels, or do you think it's gonna sit? And the
The way
honest,
you're saying it is,
yeah.
yeah,
And that's the thing with saturated fats. They do, that's what they do, because they create this storage form of cholesterol that is really gonna sit there. And the thing is, that storage form of cholesterol is not inherently bad, but when those levels rise, your risk of atherosclerosis and heart diseases is rising.
when all the other risk factors are there as well.
Oh yes, yes, yes. So there's so much caution that needs to be exercised. So what I'd advise is, if you is actually going for, yes, like soya bean oil, it's actually is a very healthy oil, very, very healthy. But just because I've said it's healthy doesn't
That's,
mean that it's not a fat, you know? Because if we really think about it, all fat is fat. All
yeah,
fat is fat.
yeah,
Meaning, and with every gram of fat you have, there's about 7 calories in there, and the
yeah.
more of it you have, the more exponentially that the calorie amount within your food also increases. So you want to just be mindful of it. So what I advise people to do then is, for example, if you're frying eggs in the morning, try to use an unsaturated fat. So I don't know whether a lot of people are frying their eggs with butter, but sometimes that can happen.
Butter is not that, it's eaten, but not, it's not that common because you have to refrigerate it
Yes,
and it's expensive.
indeed,
So
indeed.
most people use oil in Africa, not butter.
Okay.
Butter is for the
Mm.
bourgeois.
The bougie. Yeah,
The
yeah,
bourgeois. Okay,
indeed.
so we've spoken a lot,
Mm.
and I'd like you to break down what we've said into what are the key takeaways, what are the key principles
Mm.
about food for people with diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, because that's what we
Yes,
see more of in Africa,
yes.
in Nigeria and Ghana.
Mm.
What are the things that they should remember
Mm. I'm gonna give everyone 8 rules for life, you know, when you have diabetes. So I'll count down. So
I'll count
number
down.
one. Number one, oh yeah, Barbara's counting down for us. Number one, um, limit your carbohydrate intake. Whatever
Okay.
you're having at the moment, go half, cut it to half, and
Okay.
fill that plate with vegetable.
Okay.
Number two,
Two.
avoid liquid sugar and liquid carbohydrates because they're not necessary. If you have diabetes, they're going to make it worse. So a good example of that is drinking things like, like Guinness, Malta Guinness, Mighty Malt, fruit juices, Nigerian Fanta, which is very, very lovely, but is going to really, really, really negatively impact your blood sugars. Avoid if you can.
Number three.
Number three, I'll go back to veg again. Fill the plate with vegetables first, with low calorie vegetables first, because veg is always good, for you, always good for you. Number
Four.
four. Number four is don't add any extra salt at the table because your food will already have salt in it. If it's been seasoned well, it's got the Maggi inside of it. There is no need to add salt at the table. Avoid it. It's going to pull up your blood pressure. Number five. Number five is try to get, one plant-based meal into your diet every other day, or
plant-based protein.
Plant-based protein, like like beans, soya, millet. You want to base a meal around that if you can. Yep.
Six.
Six, limit alcohol. So we didn't speak about alcohol, but there are people who will drink and will drink heavy. So you want to make sure that you are limiting alcohol where you can. If I was to be very specific about that, that would be if you are having, like half a bottle of wine every day, you want to try and have 2 alcohol-free days completely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people take more of beer here than wine.
Yeah. Okay.
So if they're having a beer or if they're beer drinkers, then what's your advice?
Because beer also contains carbohydrates from the hops and the barley that it's made from. And if it's Guinness, then there's also there's malt in there as well that can be driving your blood sugars up. You really don't want to be having more than, let's just say, 2 cans of of Guinness in one go, or 2 cans of beer in one go. Maybe you want to stick to even one, and have 2.
Can they have one every day?
One can. you want to go 2 days completely alcohol free. Okay. If it's a problem for you, 2 days alcohol free completely, and no more than 1 can. Yeah.
7.
Oh, this one isn't a food related one. This is actually more of a lifestyle related one. If you are not getting much movement in your day, you need to be trying to get at least 30 minutes of exercise in every day. And exercise doesn't have to be going to the gym. Exercise can be sitting in your chair with a strong back and lifting arms. See, I'm even wearing my sort of gym stuff today. I'm trying to practice what I preach. So, so lifting your arms, lifting your legs, strengthening your muscles, because, all this food you're eating has to feed your strength. And last one. Last one is once again, is not, am I frozen or can you see me okay?
No, I can hear you.
All good. Last one, sleep. You have to get good sleep. You have to speak to your doctor about sleep if you're not sleeping well, So sleep is so important, because if you sleep poorly, you get 2 to 3 hours of sleep a day or in the night, in the morning when you wake up, or when you wake up, you are more likely, even your hormones are pulling for you to go for things that are very, very, are more high calorie. You're pushed towards that. So yes, trying to get good sleep, at least 6 hours of sleep every night, good quality sleep.
Great. So how can family help patients with diabetes? Especially because I'm happy you started with food is a social thing. A lot of the time we don't eat alone. We eat as a family, we eat with
Yes.
friends, we eat when we go to celebrations, parties, weddings. How can family members help?
Yes. Husbands, love your wives. Wives, submit to your husbands. If your husband has diabetes and he needs help, just submit to the help he requires. You know, husbands, love your wives. If your wife has diabetes, you want her to live a long and healthy life. So you need to help her. And the best way to help her is by showing her that love, by being compassionate about her diet. You know, and the thing is, if you can change the culture within your home, everybody benefits. So you have to think of it as your home first. There are things that are going to be harder to control. For example, you may have relatives, in-laws, and things like that who want to come and visit and want to eat and do things a certain way. But that's the thing; they're not going to be in your house every day. Or maybe they are. Who knows? Yeah, and if they have become a part of your family's routine. And if they are a part of your family's routine, then you have to get used to telling people, listen, I have diabetes and I want to live long. Because at the end of the day, when things go wrong in diabetes, nobody is there to remove the burden of those things for you. No one's going to take your medication for you. No one's going to, maybe you have someone who's going to pay for your hospital bill, but I'm sure they would rather not, So you have to explain to people that this is your journey to walk and you need that support. So enlist that support. Start with one person very, very, very close to you that you can trust, and extend that out, because now we're all becoming more and more health conscious. All of us are making more money and we want to be able to enjoy our estate in the future. We want to live long and be able to, give something to the next generation. So in doing that, let's tell people that our health is also that wealth that we want to bestow and pass on. Because even your genetic material that you pass on to your children, can be impacted by the choices you've made in life. So let's not give our children burdens with health. Let's give them strength. Let's give them strength.
Thank you so much, Alistair. So we've said a lot. He summarized the 8 points. You're going to have that at the end of the video written out in case you want to write it down. But I think the key takeaway is cut down your carbohydrate intake. Indeed. So start by cutting it down. Start by halving it. Anything you're taking, cut it down, cut it in half. I'm glad you took my advice and watched the video till the end, and I hope you learned a thing or two. So don't forget, watch the next videos because there's still lots of information that will be really beneficial to you. Don't forget soyo.web.app. Download it now. See you in the next video. Bye.